I wanted to get on here and talk about the market. This podcast, guys, is dedicated to bringing you good information, good and bad. And I'm here to tell you that, the market is definitely like switching up a little bit. Historically, housing has been very, very steady and a very safe asset. But there are parts of this country that are getting very, very banged up. Being able to look at a house and say, no, that's going to be an issue for a buyer. That's going to be an issue for a buyer. I think that we should fix that before we go. And yeah, I know it sucks, Bob, to spend that money, but we got to do it. Those are the types of things that a lot of agents in all markets across the country either don't have experience doing or they kind of forgot. Good morning, everyone. So I wanted to get on here and talk about the market. My name is Seth. I am with the SLG team. I'm the leader of the SLG team, real Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. And this podcast, guys, is dedicated to bringing you good information, good and bad. We have the fun stuff. We've talked about stuff for over almost 2 years we've been doing this podcast. And we've talked about a lot of the fun and how hectic and chaotic it can be. We've talked a lot about how the market can be exciting, especially if you're a seller, and hard if you're a buyer. And I'm here to tell you that, the market is definitely like switching up a little bit. So my role, and one of the reasons we joined the brokerage that we did, is because we have a national footprint. Now, a lot of brokerages have national footprints, but there are very forward-thinking people in our company, and that was one of the reasons I really wanted to be, associated with them, because at any time I can get in touch with anybody. I can hop on any mastermind across the country and get a preview of what might be coming to Philadelphia. So what I mean by that is that the Northeast, basically DC to Boston, is largely insulated from most of the economic fluctuations, so to speak, that housing is now experiencing. Now, I've talked about in past podcasts why I think that is, why I think that this housing fluctuation is even occurring at all. Historically, housing has been very, very steady and a very safe asset, but there are parts of this country that are getting very, very banged up. I've been on the record. I think I've done 2 or 3 episodes about Texas and Florida. I called it 2 years ago. If you're in Texas and Florida and you have a realtor, you really should, you can't call your nephew or your aunt. You need a highly skilled agent down there. And I would argue you always need a highly skilled agent. You should always interview agents to make sure that they're the right fit from personality, expertise, and experience level. What we're starting to see here is that houses are not just selling over a weekend. It's not a matter of how many offers you're going to get. It's really now it's becoming a professionals market. And I've talked about this on previous episodes that there are a ton of realtors, and probably a lot of the ones that are in your phone, that have never actually had to deal with price reductions, really going after feedback, putting complex deals together, showing homes to private buyers, getting houses through inspections, having the expertise, the construction expertise. I come from a very, very strong construction background, and it is invaluable in a market where houses just aren't selling themselves, and you have to actually get your seller through an inspection period. Not only is it in the contract, but being able to look at a house and say, no, that's going to be an issue for a buyer. That's going to be an issue for a buyer. I think that we should fix that before we go. And yeah, I know it sucks, Bob, to spend that money, but we got to do it. Those are the types of things that a lot of agents in all markets across the country either don't have experience doing, or they kind of forgot / they still aren't understanding what market we're in. And a lot of what that comes from is they just don't have the reps. If you hire somebody who's only sold 2 homes this year, they don't understand the market as well as somebody who's sold 15, like me. Because you go through those reps and you get an understanding of the buyer psychology. You're having all those conversations with agents. There is a nuance that is beginning to emerge within the real estate industry and the real estate agent industry and profession, where it is, like I said, becoming very, very much important, very, very important about hiring a professional and somebody who actually knows how to market a home, how to deal with repairs, understanding psychology, economics, understands how to argue for a price reduction, look at market data. And, there's been a big push in the past few years about how realtors are overpaid. And I think from the outside, it really could appear that way. I think it could appear that way because it looks like, well, he just put a sign in the yard and we got all these offers and he just signed some paperwork and I had to pay him X amount of dollars. I have always argued that in that market, which has been historically for the last 4 or 5 years, it wasn't a matter of how much it was going to sell for or that whether it was going to sell. It was a matter of how high I could ping pong these people up to get you as good of an offer as possible. And frankly, most times I was able to cover my commission by having conversations my seller had no idea about, that I was just incrementally saying, well, we're here now. Okay, we're here now. And really being on the phone for basically 48 hours. There was a few times when I had to say to my wife, I got 2 listings this weekend. You should just go with the kids somewhere because I'm not going to be available at all. Now, houses are still selling that way. I want to be very clear. There are pockets of the Philadelphia area. Absolutely. You put it in there. It's like dropping food into a fishbowl. It's like the buyers will come up. Generally, the main line, good school districts, elsewhere, Montgomery, Chester, Bucks County, those areas are still pretty strong. But you will find now, as the market is starting to, slow down a little bit. I don't want to say slow down, but it's like there's just not as many buyers out there for property. You need to go and get feedback. You need to follow up with agents. You need to understand what you're looking at when you list the house. You need to have a really good understanding of what the house infrastructure is, because you're going to get a call from an agent and they don't know the answer and you need to have it. So the other side of this, when you're hiring a listing, we're talking about hiring a listing agent, that buyer's agent too is super, super important. If you are working with a buyer's agent and you need to get into a house or you're in a house and you don't know what anything is, and your buyers and your agent doesn't know what it is either, they don't know what the infrastructure is, or they don't know, how long the property's been on the market, or they don't have any resources for you, any advice. That's a red flag. You need to interview agents who understand what's going on, bring you into a process of education. Everyone that they bring you in with their inspector or lender, right? They should all share that philosophy. And so we are going to very much go into a market where there's going to be a lot more explaining needing to be done. It's going to be slower. There's going to be more nights where we don't have answers to things. And I believe that the value of the real estate agent, will reemerge in all of its glory. I really do. I think that there is going to be, whether you're trying to sell a house or you're trying to find a house, there's going to be a revisitation by the consumer about oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I understand why these commissions are what they are. That was a lot of work. In the past 5 years, it's been an enormous amount of work to be a buyer's agent. I mean, you're running around. You could put 5, 6, 7 offers together, time away from your family, gas, tires, brakes, oil changes, whatever. There is a ton of time that was invested by buyer's agents. That is likely to continue, but I am actually really excited about the idea of that buyers will get some leverage back. But again, the buyer, the consumer is going to be probably a little bit slower to make a decision. They're not going to walk into a house on a Friday and be like, we want to throw all of our money at it and waive everything. These deals are going to have to be more nuanced. The same way that a listing agent would need to go in and say, hey, listen, we need to do these repairs. The buyer's agent should also see yeah, I can tell you right now, that's probably going to need to be replaced. They need to understand infrastructure of the house. They need to know what they're looking at least know what the components are. What's that lid in the yard? Is that a buried propane tank? Is that a well? Is that a septic tank? Understanding what things are is going to be very important, because conversely, with the listing agent having to get through inspections, the buyer's agent has to be able to get their client through inspections as well. So I wanted to just hop on here and just talk a little bit about the idea that, and we've talked about this before in terms of hiring somebody with experience, but it's always been yeah, but a lot of these houses are selling themselves. It is going to become paramount and very, very important that you have somebody who actually understands what's happening, not only in the marketplace, but gets infrastructure, gets construction, gets psychology, can actually build rapport with their counterpart, listing and buyer's agent. And if you have somebody who you just always used, or you have a college buddy or a high school buddy, or like your sister used somebody in 2021 and they did a great job, like that's not good enough, man. That's just not good enough. You need to hire somebody who actually understands what is happening and what is going on. So I wanted to leave you guys with that, and just plant that seed. It is the recording of this is August 20th. I saw a statistic a couple years ago, and I don't know if it was really because of the last 5 years, but I think it's like 71% of all home sellers decide by July 1st that they're going to sell the following year. So the reason I mentioned that is because if you are deciding on whether you're going to sell and you want to start interviewing agents in the fall, if you live in the Philadelphia area, I'd love to audition and love to take a shot at the business, but you really should interview multiple agents the same way that, if you're getting a roof replaced or an HVAC, if it's over like $3,000, like you should get 3 quotes. You absolutely should interview multiple agents to see if the personality is the right fit, if they have the expertise. Ask them how much they've sold in the past 12 months. There are staggering statistics about agents who have not sold anything. And just because their name in your phone, or you're going to sit next to them at Thanksgiving dinner, or like I said, your brother used them in 2021, like the market is totally different. You really should do yourself a favor and just have some phone conversations. You will be able to know in the first probably 5 minutes whether that's going to be a viable option for you or not. My process and Jen's process actually are like, they're a little different, but they're all the same in terms of like, we bring everyone into education. We have forms, we have lists, we have checklists, we have contractors. We've got all of this like kind of project management side. And also a very, very steady educational process that we bring people through before we even like go out and rush out and go see houses. We get you in touch with the lender. We get you in touch, and not even to apply for a loan, but just to have a conversation about what's out there. I have a client right now who, hopefully a soon to be client, I'm meeting this Friday, and they fired their old agent because the agent didn't understand anything about inspections, and they got this inspection report, and the agent had no idea how to even like talk about this stuff with the other side, and they lost the deal, and they let her go. And it was a high school friend that that she had. And we got on the phone. They found me on Instagram, and they could tell right away. They were like, wow, okay, yeah, so like you've got like a whole thing going. I'm like, yeah, like this is the only way I can organize people in a way that makes any sense. And also, it's really our job to take care of the consumer and make sure that they are completely up to date on as much information as we can throughout these transactions, because they are just they can be really, really complicated. And my job is to make them, and Jen's job is to make them less complicated. So really, guys, I think it's going to be more and more important from now and going forward. Even if the Philadelphia market holds and it's still pretty competitive, but you really should be interviewing multiple people. Like Brian Buffini says, who is a big real estate coach in our industry, it is becoming a professionals market, and I could not agree more. All right. Thanks, guys. See you.